come up to the first, second, or third row, that'd be awesome. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hey, working great. Hey, nice. Yeah, so come on up. Come on up. If you want to join us up here, this is where the real action is at. And I'm going to have to probably make that announcement about 10 more times, so just be ready for it. And come close together. I'm actually going to have us in a group or multiple groups in just a minute, so don't be far. Awesome. Well, let's do that. We have, let's do this. I'm going to mess everything up, okay? You guys ready for this? Going to mess everything up. We're all going to get into a circle with the chairs right now. We're going to sit down in a circle right here. Bring it over. There you go. Come on, come on. Let's bring chairs. And then we also, now when we're in groups, we always want to have extra seats for additional people, right? So we're going to have a few extra spots in our circle. And if we have to keep making our circle bigger as people come, we're happy to do that. Because just like any group that we start, we're always gearing things for the next person that God draws in, right? So, yep, make a circle. It's okay if it's a weird shape or something like that. That's totally fine. Come on in. We'll make it, like I said, bigger than we need, just in case there's other people that want to come join. Let's make the circle go beyond this thing so that we don't have a wall in the middle of us. Does that sound good? We passed geometry class, right? We know how to do a shape. Welcome. I'd like for this to be as meaningful as possible for you guys, so this will be great. Come on in, join us in the circle. Great. Awesome. Wonderful. And someone can help me put all these back when we're done. Huh. Awesome. I'll sit right here. Welcome. Oh, this is great. Kind of a random screen right in the middle of the circle. That's a unique element, but that way you can see even though you're facing this direction. So that's perfect. Great. Well, welcome, guys. Glad you're here. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. I think that we probably don't even have to pass the mic around or anything like that. We'll probably be able to hear if you speak up. So let's go ahead and start with prayer, and then I'd love to just get to know some of you as we get started. So I'll go ahead and begin with prayer. God, thank you so much for your blessings. Thank you for this group of leaders, of disciples, of disciple makers. And Lord, I just pray that you would come into our hearts right now in a significant way, that you would guide us and that you would empower us to make a difference in your mission as we participate with what your Spirit is doing to draw people to you and to change their lives. We love you so much and invite you to be with us right now. In Jesus' name, amen. Awesome. For anyone just joining, feel free to come join us in the circle. We've got extra spots here. And so here's what we're going to do to introduce ourselves. Now, I'm going to give you a heads up right now, okay? We're talking about building a disciple-making team, but I'd like for you to not only listen to the words that I say, but I'm also seeking to model to you how you can do ministry in your local context. Does that sound good? I'd like for this to be an experience just as much as a lecture. Is that okay with you? Experiential learning? So so I'm just saying that to say when I bring things up or when I ask a certain question, it might be, even though it just seems like a basic thing to do, it might be a helpful tool for you in your ministry toolbox as well. Does that make sense? So I'm going to lead this as I'm going to step between two different roles. One role, I'm going to be leading this as if I were leading a discipleship group in my local church. Does that sound good? And then 2, I'm going to step back into the role of equipping leaders to build a disciple-making team. Does that make sense? I'm going to kind of flip back and forth, a little bit of schizophrenic equipping here, okay? Sound good? So let's just start out by knowing who we are, right? So we're just going to go around the circle and share your name, share what church you're from, which will mean something to everyone except for me since I don't know what all the churches are. But name what church you're from, and now if I was doing this with a small group, and then I wouldn't say what church you're from, right? I might say where you're from or whatever. How about name what city you're from and something you get excited about, all right? Ready? So I'm Dustin. Whenever someone says their name, the whole group says hi, and then their name. Ready? Okay, so let's practice. I'm Dustin.
Hi.
Hey, great job. I am from Tacoma, Washington, and something I get excited about is playing with my kids.
Hi.
What's your name?
I'm Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
I'm from Cairns, and I get excited about making new friends.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Marguerite. I'm from Towns.
Hi, Marguerite. Speak up so everyone can hear. Hi, Marguerite.
And I just like big camp.
She liked Big Camp. Awesome. Awesome. Great.
My name is Elita
Elita? Hi, Elita.
Where are you from?
from Zimbabwe.
Awesome. And what's something you get excited about?
I'm traveling here.
What do you get excited about?
My bell.
Your,
What? The church.
yeah, what do you get excited about?
My church is yours, your church.
Your church.
Her church. Awesome. She gets excited about her church. She's from Zimbabwe. Yeah, let's make sure that we speak up. Would you like to join us in the circle back there? You sure? Okay. All right, let's continue. We're just going to go quickly around the circle. Yes.
Hi, I'm Estrella.
Hi, Estrella.
I used to be in Mosman Church up north. Now we transferred to Southern Conference.
Okay,
I am in Yukon Church.
great. And what's something you get excited about?
I'm excited to listen to you.
Excited? All right, great. Glad you're here. Yeah, come join us. Oh. Do you guys think we need a microphone handing around, or are we good just with voices?
On live stream.
Well, we're not gearing for them. No offense. This is for you guys. Hey, come join us in the circle, guys. If you're just gathering here, come join us. We got some open spots here in the circle. It's okay. I'll say some things that they can hear, but this way nobody. I want this to feel intimate for you guys. This is a training for you, all right? And if they get something good out of it, that's great. But I don't want you to feel like you're performing. I want you to feel like you're a normal person. Does that sound okay? Even if you're not normal. Okay, so I'm just playing. All right, and so, okay, next one. So we're just going around the circle, sharing our name, what city we're from, and something we get excited about, just briefly.
My name is Injin Hai.
Hi, Injin.
I'm from Mackay, and I'm excited about getting to know the young people.
Getting to know young people. Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Jason.
Hi, Jason.
I live in Caboolture.
All right.
Even though I don't go to Caboolture Church, I go
It's
to
all right.
another church
Yeah.
around. Yeah, I love birds.
Oh, cool. If you guys would like to join in, you're welcome to join in the circle. We have some extra spots here, and we'll make some more if we need to. Beautiful. Jason, you said, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Barney
Hi, Barney.
from Innisfail, and I get excited about time with my family, like going for walks or even
Awesome.
together.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Jane.
Hi, Jane.
I'm from Townsville, and I get excited about going in nature, finding a nice clear waterhole to swim in, and doing evangelistic things for my church.
Beautiful.
Get other people involved.
Beautiful. Thank you. Hey, let's extend our circle. So multiple tears make me cry. So let's extend the circle. That was a joke. So that come on, join us. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Jane. And so we're just sharing our name, what city we're from, and one thing we get excited about. Awesome. We'll continue on. Hi, Nerveen.
Hi, Nerveen.
Singing. Beautiful. That's awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And just for time's sake, we won't have time to give long explanations, but we'll just share one thing we're excited about. Name, city, and one thing we're excited about. And I think that maybe my friends in the back were right. It might be just slightly easier if we do have a mic. You were right. Yeah, you AV guys, you're right. We're, oh, right here? This will just help us hear each other, all right? Don't feel like you're performing for some camera over here. You're just a regular person. Awesome. And we're just going to go quickly around the circle. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm from Harvey.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. I'm from Harvey Bay, and I love the grandchildren.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, I'm Alwyn.
Hi, Alan.
I'm from Harvey Bay as well. I'm Lynn's husband, and I enjoy helping the neighbours.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Dennis Martin
Hi, Dennis.
from Gladstone. And I think the good thing is that we can still go door to door.
Nice.
I'm John from the table.
Hi, John.
And
So whenever someone says a name, then we all say, hi, their name. Why am I having us do that?
Can reinforce their
For two reasons. One, it helps you remember their name, and two, it helps them feel welcomed and accepted. All right. Thank you, John. Keep going.
I'm excited about being here to learn more and to share with everyone I meet.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melinda.
Hi, Lita.
And I'm from the Atherton Tablelands, and I really get excited about seeing my great-grandkids.
Nice.
Hi, my name is Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, I also come from Atherton. I'm happy to be here. Excited. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Yusla.
Say that again.
Yusla.
Hi, Yuselin.
Hi. I am excited with singing.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Jeddah.
Hi, Jeddah.
I'm from the Atherton Church, and I'm excited to be here.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Stuart.
Hi, Stuart.
I'm from a little town called Emu Creek near Toowoomba, and I get excited about building stuff.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. And then we had a few others join here. Just share your name, what city you're from, and one thing you get excited about. Thank you so much for extending the circle. Appreciate that.
Hello, I'm Moses from Townsville.
Hi, Moses.
And I'm happy to be in the camp.
Nice. Great. What's your name?
Hey, I'm Joseph.
Hi, Joseph.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi. I come from Mariba SDA Church and live in Atherton. But I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Regina. I come from
Hi,
Darwin.
Regina.
From where? From Darwin, Northern Territory.
Yes.
It's my first time to be in a big camp. I'm very happy. So when I go back, I'll say, come on, next year, let's prepare.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Would you like to join us up here? Okay, cool. All right. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Two quick questions for you. Like I said, this is modeling and equipping. Why did I take the time for all of us to go around the circle to introduce ourselves? What do you think? See how good your memory is? That's funny. Yeah.
Get to know each other a bit better.
Get to know each other a bit better? Yes. Excellent. Anyone else? Break the ice? Very good. Yeah, right? It changes the relationship between us when we've done this. Yeah, excellent. Anyone else? To feel welcome, yeah, to feel part of the group. That's important, right? To feel part of the group. Anything else? If I ask a discussion question later, I can bet you that anyone who has talked in the beginning during the introductions time will feel far more comfortable speaking up than if they haven't. And I would even be willing to bet that if someone joins this group later on and they don't have that experience, that if I open it up for a discussion question, they're far less likely to answer, right? So breaking the ice was what you said over here. And this is not, I'm not doing this to try to get something from you. I'm trying to do this so the Spirit can grow connection, right? When people feel connected with each other, when they feel connected with the leader, when they feel connected with God, everybody grows so much more. Welcome, come on in, come on, join us in the circle. We've got some empty chairs right here, 2 chairs just for you guys. What else have you noticed? Have you noticed anything else of how I've been facilitating this? Have you noticed anything else? I'm sitting with you, right? I could be up here by myself over here and talk down of how I'm the pastor and you guys all need to learn everything that I know because I'm special, right? But I'm with you, right? Exactly. And the reality is that all of us know things because we're all disciples that we can learn from each other. Beautiful. Welcome. Who just joined us right here? Welcome. What are your names? Ron? Hi, Ron. And Ellie. Hi, Ellie. Nice to meet you guys. What city are you from? Near Darwin. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for joining the group. So the one other thing I want you to notice is when somebody shared what they get, their name, city, and something they get excited about, what did I do? Did I sit there quietly? What did I do? I validated their comment. When you are leading a discussion group, you will have people engage more or less based on how you validate people when they share something, right? If you say, and I get excited about playing with my grandkids, and I say, then that makes, is that not something that other people get excited about around? You know what I'm saying? But when I say, oh, that's beautiful, that's wonderful, that's great. Or even if somebody was to say a comment in a discussion that is like completely different than what I would say, I would probably say, that's interesting, or I hadn't thought of that before, or okay, thank you for sharing that. And so these are ways that we can build connection in a group, and when that's taking place, people grow more with Jesus and with each other and in the mission. So anyway, just wanted to kind of start out that way because when we talk about building a disciple-making team, who is part of that team and how they connect with each other and how they connect with God and how they connect with those beyond the group is a game changer. Right? And so I'm gonna step back into my equipping now. I'm modeling and equipping, right? I'm gonna step into the equipping role for a minute here, and say, imagine you were going to your city for the first time. You're moving into your city, and your goal is to see every person receive a meaningful invitation to become a disciple of Jesus, right? And not just an invitation, but have an opportunity to be discipled. Would you like to come join us in the circle? Would love to have you. Great. Welcome. So imagine that you've got 3.5 years for everyone in that city and beyond to have the opportunity to become a disciple if they want to be. Welcome. Glad you're here. What's your name? Juan. Hi, Juan. Welcome. So you got 3.5 years. Okay, what would you do? Turn to the person next to you. You've got 3.5 years to try to help set up something that will give everyone a chance to become a totally devoted disciple of Jesus. What's your strategy? What do you do? Turn to the person next to you. You've got 30 seconds to respond. Ready, set, go. All right, half your time is up, so make sure the second person has a chance to share as well. Great. Awesome. All right. Let me just hear a couple responses. What did you say in your group? And we don't have time for long monologues, but just what were some highlights? And just a phrase or a sentence. What were some highlights? Yes. Hospitality. Beautiful. Get to know people, yes. Oh, love that. Invite people over to your place. Build relationship. Okay. Meeting needs. Okay.
Friendship evangelism.
Friendship evangelism. Beautiful. These are all wonderful, wonderful places to start. My question is, what happens after you leave 3.5 years later?
It should continue without us.
Oh, how? It
Like
should
the
continue
rest
with...
of the group, like, if we've done our job, we should be able to step, is that the question?
Yes,
Should
yes,
be able to
yeah.
step back and let them take over.
So I'm hearing two things now. I'm hearing one, we need to build relationships, engage with people, and ultimately help them engage with Jesus in the context of relationship. But if it never transitions, if I'm always the disciple maker and they don't become disciple makers, then what happens when I leave 3.5 years later? Everything slows down or stops. Now, hopefully the Spirit will kind of raise up people and everything like that, but that's not necessarily the case if we have not been giving those opportunities while we've been there, right? Does that make sense? This is why when we think about ministry, when we think about leading, this is an elder workshop. Now, I hope that there's more than just elders here as well. Elders, you're awesome. How many of you are an elder in your church? Praise the Lord. Thank you for your service. How many of you are in a church leadership role in your church? Raise your hand. Praise the Lord. Beautiful. Thank you for your service. How many of you are a member of a church? Praise the Lord. Thank you for being involved. How many of you may be a member of a church in the future? Beautiful. Thank you. Praise the Lord, right? We're all on this journey, but we all can make a difference. But if we aren't building a disciple-making team, our impact will die with us, right? So it makes me think about, I was leading a Sabbath school class when I was in college, and I was asked to start a new Sabbath school class on campus. There was very little attendance for whatever reason. Out of hundreds of people on the university campus, barely anyone ever attended Sabbath school. So someone had the idea, okay, let's start 3 groups at the same time instead of just one. And so they asked me to lead one of them. And at first I said no, but then I said, okay, I prayed about it and I felt, yeah, I should do this. And so I went and invited all my friends, invited everyone, and we started having the class. The class grew and God blessed, and it grew and grew and grew until there was like 50, 60 people part of this Sabbath school class. And one of my mentors asked, and so it's going really well, and I was like, awesome, God, you're working. And there's not just people attending, but there's people who would not normally engage who are there because of the relationships that have been built. And so they're growing spiritually, and I'm so excited. And one of my mentors said, so who is someone that you're investing in to help also grow to become a teacher and a leader of this class? And I said, well, I like doing it. I like teaching the lesson. I'm the one who's friends with all these people. It's working well for me to lead it. Well, they said, have you thought about, bringing some other people along that you could invest in and give opportunities to so that you could multiply the leadership there? And I said, no, I think I'm going to keep teaching it. So the class continued to just grow and blossom and do wonderful things. And the next year, when I had a different assignment to help a church in the area, what do you think happened to that class? The most successful Sabbath school class in the last several years of the university died. Why? Because I failed at building a disciple-making team, right? God used me as a disciple maker, but I failed to build a team. And I'm going to talk more about that. You'll hear some overlap with this workshop and with the presentations that I make later on this week, but hopefully that just helps cement it in your mind more. And this is a comfortable format that we can kind of engage in a different way. Yes?
And you hadn't invested in others.
I hadn't invested in others, right? I was happy to lead them, but I wasn't developing more leaders, right? And so that's really the paradigm shift. So when Jesus came, he knew he'd have 3.5 years of ministry on planet Earth before he'd be killed and then resurrect and go back up to heaven. And so what does Jesus do in order to not just reach an entire city, but reach the entire world? What does he do? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders, right? And I would even take it a step further to say that great leaders don't just train people to take their place, they position people to lead whatever they're called to lead. Because it's one thing to try to find someone to lead my thing. It's another thing to try to invest in someone to lead whatever God's thing is that he has for them. And maybe it happens to be taking my place, and maybe it happens to be starting something completely different. But that's a kingdom leadership. I know you're thinking that way as well, but I just want to expand it to the kingdom because some of the leaders that I've invested in never ended up taking my place. But they sure did end up making a big difference for the kingdom, but sometimes not even in my local church or in my context. But it's a kingdom win, right? So Jesus, he's got 3.5 years, and so Jesus invests deeply in 12 people in a disciple-making team, all right? What did this look like? Let's read it, Mark chapter 3. What was Jesus' strategy? Jesus went up on a mountainside. I've combined Luke 6 here because this happens in the same context. Jesus went up on a mountainside to pray and called to him those he wanted. And they came to him. He appointed 12, designating them apostles, that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach and to have authority to drive out demons. All right, now turn to the person next to you in groups of 2 or 3 and tell me some things you notice about Jesus' strategy for building a disciple-making team. What do you notice about what Jesus did? This is a great summary about what Jesus did for building a disciple-making team. Turn to the person next to you in groups of 2 or 3. You got 1 minute. Ready, set, go. Would you like to come join us in the circle? Come on up. We have another spot. Is someone sitting right here? Hey, is someone sitting right here? Are they coming? Okay, well, we've got a spot right here if you want. Right here, there's an open spot right here. And then, or we can open up, if you know these people, we can just make a space right here. If you'd like to, if you feel more comfortable sitting there. Thank you. And just give short answers so that everyone has a chance to share. Would you like to join us up here in the circle? You're welcome to. I'm going to add another chair right here. Can we move this one? Yeah. And then I'll take a chair up here too, so we're ready. All right, great. You guys had a chance to discuss? I want to hear some of your thoughts, just very quick thoughts. What was one element, just one sentence answers, just so that we have time for multiple people to share one sentence answers. And then can we make the circle go back just a little bit? Are you comfortable? You want me to help you move your chair?
I'm right, but she's...
You all right? Sorry. We'll try to not make you guys move again. Does that sound good? Do you want a hand? We won't make you move again, okay? We'll just have it right here. Got it? Sorry about that. Got it? Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. All right, good. I appreciate it. Great. Okay, so what were just some elements you noticed of Jesus' strategy? Okay, one, before I ask this question, have you noticed what we're doing with chairs around here? Have you noticed what we're doing with new people? When you're leading a group or a Sabbath school class, if you have a new person who comes into the room and you don't engage them, they probably won't engage with your class or your group. But if you have a new person who comes in and you engage them and welcome them in and give them one sentence without, reteaching the whole lesson, give them one sentence about how they can catch up to speed of where we're at, then they get to be part of the group, right? And then we always want to make sure that we have extra chairs, a couple extra chairs, because we want the new person or the church exists for the people who aren't here yet. Do you believe that? Amen. The church exists for the people who aren't here yet. And so we want to have a next person culture in everything that we do, right? So when the church expresses itself in anything, whether you're leading a group, a Sabbath school class, a ministry, a worship gathering, whatever it is, we want to have, how can this impact the next person for Jesus? And how can we do this in such a way that the next person can have their life changed? Because the church is not for us. It's not for us. It's for those that aren't part of it yet. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. I hope that you picked up on that. That's part of the modeling piece. But going back to the equipping piece, for those of you who just came, I'm kind of stepping between two sides right now. In one sense, I want to model how to lead a group, how to lead a discipleship group. That's helpful. And then on the other sense, I want to equip you as leaders for some of the depth or philosophy or principles beneath that. Does that make sense? Are we all on the same page? Okay, great. So what was Jesus' strategy to build a disciple-making team? I want to just hear some rapid-fire answers, one-sentence answers from several people. Right here? Okay, he separated them and sent them out to preach. Prayer. Prayer was a key part, right? Even before even recruiting anyone onto his team, he spent the whole night in prayer. Excellent. So God was choosing who was on his team. Yes?
He empowered them and then said go.
Empowered them and then said go. Yes. Pray in unity. Oh, yes.
He chose 12 very different people.
He chose 12 very different people, right? Exactly. I mean, you see that Simon the Zealot, he would be like someone who's like trying to overthrow the Romans, and then you've got Levi Matthew, the tax collector, who's like someone trying to help the Romans. So those two guys would have been mortal enemies. It's a miracle that one of them didn't kill each other before Jesus even died, right? And Jesus he's bringing people together who are from different backgrounds into a group on purpose. They had to learn how to love each other. Jesus could have started a seminary. He could have taught a class. He could have preached sermons to the masses. He did, but he did that so much less often than leading a small group, right? And so Jesus could have done any of those things. He could have done one-on-one mentoring, right? And just mentored people one-on-one. But he brings them together into a group to challenge them to grow in love for one another. Have you ever noticed that it's a lot easier to love a perfect God than an imperfect group of people? That's why it sounds so like enticing to take the moral high road and disconnect from the church, because then we don't have to deal with the messed up people anymore, and we get to just pretend that we are following a perfect God. The only problem is that God consistently drives us back into his people, warts and dysfunction and all, so that he can continue to transform us outward in mission. Speaking of dysfunction, usually you can tell how missional a group of people are based on how dysfunctional they are. Because mission and dysfunction are two different directions. The more missional we are, the more healthy the environment can become if we're seeking to be faithful to Jesus and make disciples. So conflict is a symptom of not making disciples, right? Conspiracy theories are a symptom of not making disciples, right? Gossip is a symptom of not making disciples, right? Any of those things are symptoms of not making disciples. When I feel like I need to come up with some really enlightening new concept that no one's heard before, that's a symptom of not sharing with someone the basic, beautiful, transformational wonder of who Jesus is for the first time. Does that make sense? Awesome. But I'm starting to preach now, so let's dial it down. So we heard. Anyone else want to share things you noticed from Jesus' strategy to build a disciple-making team? He mingled with them. Yeah, he was with them. It was a life-on-life experience, right? Excellent. Anything else? He made everyone feel comfortable. Well, I don't know if they always felt comfortable, but he made everyone feel connected, right? Part of the group. Exactly. Yep. Anyone else? He called them. Yes, okay, he called them. So I'd love to highlight just a few principles. There's plenty here that you could really unpack. This is really a summary statement of Jesus' ministry that gives a lot of beautiful insight. Welcome. If you'd like to join us in the circle, you're welcome to. So I want to highlight, welcome guys. If you'd like to join us in the circle up here, you guys are welcome too. So let me highlight just a few things straight from the text, okay? We want to be biblical here. Mountainside to pray, called to those who he wanted, appointed 12 to be with him, send them out to preach, and to have authority. Welcome guys. So here's some lessons we could take. And like I said, this is not all the lessons. We're not limited to this. We've got a couple seats right up here as well, if you guys would like. We're not limited to these lessons. Yeah, if you don't mind joining in the circles, then I can see everyone's face. I'd love to be able to engage with all of you guys. Thank you. So some lessons, right? Just from the text, right? New groups provide a new environment to grow healthy disciples. Why didn't Jesus come in and just pastor an existing synagogue? People were already doing that, right? The problem is, why didn't Jesus come in and just try to revitalize the temple ministry? Wasn't working, right? Welcome. Glad you guys are here. What are your names?
Lori.
Lori?
Jenny.
And Jenny. Hi, Lori and Jenny. And then who just joined over here? Helen. Hi, Helen. Welcome. We're just talking about how to build a disciple-making team and starting with how did Jesus build his disciple-making team? Some lessons from Mark 3:13-15. And so Jesus didn't try to revitalize something that was already in place. He started a new group, okay? How many of you would like to see the church that you are currently part of revitalized or thrive? How many of you would like to see that? How many of you would like to see new churches planted that are thriving in the mission as well? Awesome. Praise the Lord, right? The secret to both of those is starting new groups. Did you know that? The secret to revitalizing a church, the secret to planting a church, it all is the same. It's building it's multiplying groups of disciples who make disciples, right? And so that's the church really is actually just a collection of groups. Did you know that? Whether that could be a Sabbath school group, that could be a church choir, that could be a Pathfinder group, that could be an informal group of friends that get together to do life together. That could be an outreach group, could be whatever group, but really the church is just a collection of groups. And so the more that we can help those groups grow and multiply, the more our churches will grow and multiply. So a new group provides a new environment to grow healthy disciples, right? It's key. Second, God has people he wants to disciple through the groups you start, right? Jesus prayed and then called those he wanted to him, right? So God was giving him discernment of people that he could bring into this group. Number 3, committing to shared life and ministry in a Jesus-centered group is transformational, right? Jesus first called them to do what? Did he call them to go preach right away? What was the first step? To be with him. To be with him, right? To do life together, and through that they would grow and be transformed. Yes.
There was a time in our church when small groups were feared by the leadership, it seems to me, because the small groups would get things done.
It's hard to keep control, right? And so usually the people who are against small groups in churches or organizations are the ones who are trying to keep a very tight control of everything that's done and not surrender that to the Holy Spirit. If I can be completely blunt. Is that okay if I be completely blunt with you? So if somebody is against groups, now they may have seen groups done in a wrong way or a dysfunctional way, but the concept is very biblical. So we'll keep going. Personal invitations are most effective. Did Jesus put an announcement in the bulletin, who wants to be my disciple? Did Jesus make a call from the front? I'm starting a new group, and anyone who wants to join, just turn up at the church building on Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Okay, I'll see you there. How often does that happen in our churches where somebody wants to do something, they make a general announcement, no personal invitations, and then they're discouraged that the same 3 people show up to everything that the church does, were there, and nobody came, right? And it's because personal invitations are most effective. Jesus called people personally. Hey, come follow me. I'll get to this later, but I found that if I want to have 10 people in a small group, then I need to invite 40 people. I usually need to invite 4 times more people than I want to have actually participate. Now, you may have closer friendships than I do, so your numbers may be better, right? But I found that also if I've eaten with those people and listened to their story, if I've had them over for dinner, or if I've shared a meal with them, taken them out to a restaurant or whatever, then that their likelihood of journeying with a group that I'm leading goes up by 50%, right? So if I've eaten with all those people, then I need to invite twice as many people as I want to have journey with a group. So the point is that when we think about leading groups, a key part of it is personally inviting people into the journey, right? Because without personal invitations, there is no group. It's just us, right? You're welcome to join us in the circle here. And then the goal of groups is to develop missional leaders who multiply. Awesome. So if we want to think about a disciple-making team, it's people who lead discipleship groups that multiply. Does that make sense? Welcome. Glad you're here. What's your name? Andrew? Hi, Andrew. Welcome. So it's people who lead discipleship groups that multiply. So if you really want to think about it from a big picture level, some of you guys are big picture thinkers. Some of you guys are like just pragmatists, like I love to think on the ground. That's totally fine either way. But from a big picture level, your disciple-making team is really all the people in your church who are leading groups that are intentionally making disciples. Right? Does that make sense? And so if we want to build a disciple-making team, how can we develop leaders who then go out and lead groups and ministries that are intentionally making disciples and developing leaders to then multiply groups? Does that make sense? That's really what we're talking about. So when I say a disciple-making team, it's a little bit of a fluid term because your disciple-making team may be directly mentored by you, or it may be something broader than you, but all of us in our sphere of influence can be discipling people who will become a disciple-making team to some level. Does that make sense? Is that confusing or no? Yes or no? Thumbs up, I'm confused. Thumbs down, I get it. Okay, I should have done it the other way around, but that's totally fine. I wish I had a picture of everyone just giving a thumbs down to me right there. That would have been hilarious. We could have put it in the newsletter for Big Camp, you know. So who to recruit onto your disciple-making team? Now we can cast a net wide for the groups that we lead and everything like that. But when we think about who's going to make the biggest difference in really becoming a group leader and a mentor of group leaders that help multiply groups, right? That's really the job of, now you don't have to be an elder to do this, but the biblical role of an elder would be somebody who mentors group leaders and who develops new group leaders, right? Wouldn't that make sense? That would be at the fundamental level what an elder does, not just give the prayer up front on Sabbath morning or give the offering appeal or something, right? Now, I'm not against those things, but at the fundamental level, that would be what an elder would do, but you don't have to be an elder to do that. All you need to do is be a disciple. So people who lead discipleship groups that multiply, what kind of people do you want to look for? So let's say that you're starting this out. Let's say you're starting from scratch. You're like, okay, that's cool, Dustin. You know, it's nice that you're thinking all these beautiful, idealistic, big picture things of having all these groups going on in my church, but like we don't have any groups going on in my church, or maybe we have one group or something like that. So what am I supposed to do about that? Let's talk about where to start if you were starting from scratch. Okay, does that make sense? If you're starting at square one. Now, if you're starting ahead, then that's just a bonus, okay? But let's start, if you're starting at square one, first I'm going to look for people. So the first step would be to start a small group, right? Now, if you have people who are ready to also start multiple groups at the same time, that's even better, but you may or may not have that, right? So if you have people that are willing to do that, we could start 3 groups at the same time and work together to invite people into all 3 of those groups and journey together for a couple months and then collaborate with the 3 leaders, with the leaders of the groups and say, how did we see God at work? How are we learning from this? Who are we discipling? And what are the next steps for them and for our groups, right? Does that make sense? Now, if you have that, that's ideal. But if you don't, let's say that you don't have that and you only have whatever you're going to do is the only thing that's going to happen, all right? Let's just imagine that that's the case. So the first step would be to start a small group, right? Does that make sense? To start a small group or a ministry or something like that, start a small group. And what could that look like? Now, who do I want to personally invite into that? The first people I would want to think to personally invite into that are people who are hungry, humble, and smart. Now, they don't have to be all these things, but I'm thinking about inviting people who are going to become leaders of other groups, right? And so if they already have some of these character qualities, then they're going to be ready to lead sooner. It doesn't mean that that someone else couldn't grow into that. Honestly, if you look at the 12 disciples that Jesus selected, I would say that they were hungry, right? They definitely wanted to make a difference. I would say that they were not humble, and I would say that they were not smart, right? So obviously there can be a growth journey, but they were committed, right? But think about people who are wanting to be committed to the journey, people who are, but these are the first places I'll look for, okay? Hungry, they want to make a difference, they're passionate, motivated, often entrepreneurial, humble, strong character, high spirituality, outward focus, and here's the big one, no personal agenda. No personal agenda. Right? I'm not going to invite the person who has a pet theological theory that they got from some person on YouTube that they're trying to make the whole church adopt that has nothing to do with the 28 fundamental beliefs or really the character of God, right? I'm not going to invite that person. And if you are that person, I hope that you get more focused on making disciples. All right, so I love you, but so I'm not going to invite the person who's always gossiping or causing trouble and stuff like that because I want to create a healthy environment for new disciples to be made. Does that make sense? And since I'm leading this group, I get to decide who's invited into it and who's not, right? It doesn't mean I'm trying to keep people out, but I'm trying to preserve the health of the environment, okay? Does that make sense? What you permit, you promote, okay? So then hungry, humble, smart. If possible, if they're emotionally intelligent, if they're good judgment, can handle responsibility, that's a bonus, right? And then one other element that I love to look for, you want to know what it is? Ready for it? Young. Young people. They will add energy, passion, creativity, and cultural relevance to your group. You want to know something super offensive? Ready for it? Want to be offended? Okay, quick question. How many of you are over age 35? If you're over age 35, right here. All right. All right, let me say something offensive to you, okay? Jesus would have passed all of you by as his disciples. That's so harsh, isn't it? Now, when I say as his 12 disciples, okay, you all can be disciples of Jesus, okay? I'm not saying that, right? But Jesus, the offensive truth is that Jesus picked only youth and young adults to be his disciples, right? Why? You ever thought about that? Yeah, there were a lot of women as well that followed in his entourage, but not in the 12. Yep. What? They could grow into the thing. Yeah, anything else? Yeah? Team players, more flexible, more moldable as well. Yeah? Energy. Yeah? They had a lot of lifespan. They had a lot of life impact left in them, right? So, yeah. Oh, were you raising your hand? They'd be teachable. Yes, right? No, not set in their ways. So when I'm leading a small group, a new small group, I want young adults to be part of that group if possible, because they will add health to the group. Because they naturally will know what makes sense and what doesn't make sense to an unchurched person. They will naturally want to form authentic relationships and not just play church. You know what I'm saying? They will naturally get excited about things that are exciting, like the power of the life-changing Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not trying to generalize. Every person's different. Everyone's on their journey. But if there are young people in the church or community that I can invite to be part of a group, I want to do that. And it doesn't mean I only have young people in a group. Don't get me wrong. But they will add all these things to the team. Does that make sense? Now, will you forgive me for being offensive? All right, I love you all. Here's what I'm not saying. I want to clarify. Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that Jesus only uses young people. That's not true. That's not biblical, right? Jesus needs people of all ages, right? Jesus calls all to be his disciples, right? But sometimes with the all, we forget to really deeply invest in the next leaders of movements that Jesus has in front of us. Yeah.
They've got to be really committed because it's not a fly-by-night thing. It's just going to be over in 6 weeks.
Yep, they've got to be really committed. And oftentimes that commitment grows in the context of relationship as well. They're not always ready to make a commitment right away, but it could grow. And you're exactly right, though. It's not going to, and for whoever it is, it's going to be a commitment journey. So one other element that you can think about when you're building your team, and this is something helpful, is how can this team be a team that reaches all the different people groups in your context, your mission context, right? Now, for some of you, how many of you guys live in a city that has that is multi-ethnic, right? That has different ethnicities in your city, okay? And there's probably some cities here that are primarily one ethnicity, I would guess, but probably most of them are multi-ethnic. Is that true? So that would mean that if I want to form a team that reaches the city, then I would want to have people in my group that I'm investing in from different backgrounds, right? That means that they should not all look like me, right? Right? So here's a picture of the team that I invested in. These became the elders of the church that we planted. You can tell they're young people, right? You can also tell that they're white, Pacific Islander, black, Asian. And so that was very intentional. Now, you can't choose who's receptive to a discipleship journey. The Holy Spirit chooses that, right? But also, if I'm not intentional, then I'm only probably going to disciple people who look just like me. Is that wrong to disciple people that look like me? No, it's not wrong, right? It's not wrong. But is it optimal for the mission if a church is only able to disciple one people group well in the city? Does that make sense? And so whether you are born in Australia or whether you're an immigrant to Australia or wherever you're at in the picture, all of you have been called by God to give an opportunity to everyone in your city or town a meaningful opportunity to a discipleship journey, whether they look like you or not, whether they come from your background or not. And so the more that we can lean into the idea that we want everyone to be reached and recognizing that that's going to happen different ways because our cultures express themselves differently, that's a beautiful thing. But if we can all be leaning into each other and all be helping every people group be reached, we're going to get so much further for the kingdom. Do you agree with that? Because the church exists for the people who aren't here yet. And I had to have a come to Jesus moment with myself, first of all, and I realized, hey, why is it that for most of my life, all of my best friends have been white? Right? Because it was easier. We came from the same culture. We were used to it. We had things in common. It was the easier thing to do, right? But then I started challenging myself to say, wait a second. I want to have white friends, yes, but I also want to have other, and it wasn't that I didn't have friends that were of other ethnicities. I did, but I was never as close to them. And I said, I want to intentionally build close friendships with people who don't look and sound like me, right? And so then when we were planting our church, we came to the place where I had to have a come to Jesus moment with the team and said, hey, why is it that all the people that I went to some of my close friends, right? Pacific Islanders, Xander and Jed right here on the two guys on the other side of Veronica who's in the middle there, okay? Xander and Jed. And so I had to go to them. They're godly, wonderful, Christ-centered people. And I remember sitting down with them one time and saying, hey, why is it that everyone you're discipling always has brown skin? Why not white or black or Asian or whatever else? They had never thought about it before. It wasn't that they were trying to be I doubt that anyone's trying to be prejudiced, right? Most people have a good heart. If they're trying to follow Jesus, they have a good heart, right? But most of us need to be challenged, right? Is anybody being challenged? Be honest. Is anyone being challenged by what I'm saying right now? Anybody being challenged? I hope so. I hope so. So this is an opportunity for all of us to invest in people who both look like us because we're positioned to reach them, right? But also people who don't look like us because we could pour into them to be able to reach others as well. Does that make sense? Yes.
Yeah, I've been surprised how people that have got a beautiful coloured skin consider others not black enough or too black.
Yeah, it happens. It can happen for no matter what your background is. This is about Jesus and the gospel, right? The Revelation, and I'm getting way off into the weeds here, but Revelation mentions every nation, tribe, language, and people 7 times, some different variation of that, 7 times in Revelation, including when it describes what heaven looks like. So evidently, Jesus doesn't just expect all of us to become the same color or to have the same culture when we get to heaven. He's preserving the beauty of his character that is reflected through all cultures collectively coming together as a mosaic of the wonder of who God is, right? So we need all the cultures. Are you hearing this? We need all the cultures in order to represent the character of God. And so we want to be intentional with how we disciple people in that way. Does that make sense? When we're all doing this, then we can see all groups get reached, even if there's certain groups that are easier to reach and certain groups that are more challenging to reach. Okay, last comment, then I'm going to keep moving on.
I think that would be very common for everyone here who lives in this region because we're very multicultural. We have a lot of people who identify Papua New Guinean, Indigenous, lots of different cultures, lots of different areas. And I know in each and every church, they like to do things different. So we're constantly challenged about how to work and not separate or segregate, but to keep them together as well as supporting their different cultures. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what I want to be clear on is it is totally okay to plant lots of new churches that reach people in an intentional way, right? That's totally okay. It's okay to launch new groups that reach people in a different way. But what I want to say is that immigrant groups need to adopt a cross-cultural missionary mindset to also reach people from the host culture where they're living. And host culture groups need to also adopt a cross-cultural missionary mindset to care about reaching immigrant groups who are moving in. Does that make sense? It seems like, from my standpoint, it seems like, now, I don't know what it's like here in Australia, but in my context in Washington, most immigrants that I talk to have not thought about, and they're good people. I've got tons. I wish you knew me to know that I'm not saying, like I am friends with these people. I'm journeying with them. Like I care about them deeply. Many of them have never thought about how God may have sent them to as a missionary to reach American-born people who are different from them. Because the countries they came from are way more reached, have way more Adventists than the country they just came to, right? And if we all can adopt a cross-cultural missionary mindset, we're going to get a lot further in that. Does that make sense? And cross-cultural missionary mindset means that we're willing to do what will be most conducive to reach the people who need to be reached more than the what feels home to me or what I like. Does that make sense? I'm going to move forward. Is that okay to keep moving? But I think it's helpful to have these kind of conversations because what I've found is that in my context, when I try to bring these things up, sometimes then I start looking like a racist, right? Oh, well, you just care about, you just care about this, or you just care about this. And I don't at all. I want to see every people group reached for Jesus Christ, right? And I know that if certain people groups are being reached well and others aren't being reached well, then we need to really double down the focus on how to reach those who aren't being reached well. Does that make sense? Because that's our role as disciple makers. So I hope that you're all hearing this in love. All right, should we keep moving? Let's keep going. So how did Jesus recruit his team? Wow, okay, so how much longer do you want to go? Because this said 2-hour block. I feel like that's a little bit long. How much longer do you want to go? We've gone for 1 hour. I'm going to take a vote here. How many want to go for 15 more minutes or 30 more minutes? That's the options, okay? All right. 15 or 30, okay? And if your vote doesn't win and then you can still choose to stay or go or whatever, right? Okay, but 15 or how many say 15 more minutes? Raise your hand. I'm not offended. Okay? Cool. How many say 30 more minutes? Okay, if you said 15, you can get up and leave. We're not offended, right? We love you and we're glad that you came. You've already been here an hour. So, okay, I'm going to move quickly on to more into the how-to, okay? How to recruit into your team. When we see how did Jesus recruit into his disciple-making team, all right? Well, the Bible tells us, Mark chapter 1, as Jesus walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Then Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." They immediately left their nets and followed him. So once again, did Jesus personally invite people? Yes, but what did that personal invitation consist of? Let me break it down for you right here. Jesus sought out potential future leaders, right? He sought them out. He didn't just wait around for someone to turn up. He sought them out, and they were people that may or may not be journeying with the current system, right? These guys, fishermen, nobody expected fishermen to have any significant role in society, and especially in spiritual leadership, right? Yes. And why do they follow him? Here's what part of the answer is, I believe. I believe that they weren't expecting someone to believe in them, right? Believing in people is powerful, right? It's what God does with us. He believes in us. He believes in our potential to grow and to make a difference, right? So then what did Jesus do? First, he sought out potential leaders. Then he discovered their passions, gifts, values, and dreams, right? So that would be like, my favorite way to do that is to connect with someone, get their contact info, and then have them over to my house for dinner or take them out to eat or go for a smoothie or whatever we need to do so we can sit down and I can hear their story. And when I hear their story, and then I can ask questions like, how would you love to grow in the next few months? What would you love to see, if they're a Christian, I'll ask, what would you love to see God do through you in the next 6 months? That's my favorite question to ask, right? That's dreams. But if they're not a Christian, I'll just say, what would you love to be known for? Or what kind of impact would you like to make in the lives of others in the next 6 months? Or whatever it is, right? Does that make sense? So I can ask questions to get to know what their passions, gifts, values, and dreams are. And so Jesus knew these guys. He knew that they were passionate about being fishermen. They were good at it. And so Jesus then, number 3, casts a vision of how they could make a unique impact, right? But he does it in connection with their values, in connection with their passions, right? He doesn't just say, hey, I'm going to change the world. You want to come? Come on, let's go. No, he connects it with with their story, right? Hey, you guys are fishermen and you're good at it. Hey, nice job. You guys know how to do that. That's amazing. Hey, you could use those skills. You guys are willing to go out there and look for the fish and catch them. I would love to journey with you and show you how you could use those passions and gifts that you have to change lives, to change the trajectory of somebody's family tree because you went out fishing, but fishing for people. You see how that's personalized? It's not just, hey, who wants to join my group? Hey, you want to join my group? Let's go, right? It's personalized. It's connected to their values, passions, gifts, and dreams. And it casts a vision of how they could make an impact, right? It's not just about, hey, you could attend. It's about, hey, you could change somebody else. You could see Jesus change other people's lives for you. And then ask for a high level of commitment, right? Did Jesus say, hey, if you feel like it, maybe just show up here and there, and then, we'll just see how things go, right? Ask for a high level of commitment. Now, some people, this is different. I just want to clarify, this is different than people you're inviting to be discipled in your group, right? Let's say that there's someone who doesn't know God yet, friend from the community, your neighbor, and you've struck up conversations with them, you've blessed them, you've maybe taken, done something to serve or to bless them or taken a gift or whatever over there, and then you've had them over for dinner, you've shown hospitality, you've built a... Now, that's not who I'm talking about when you say, hey, do you want to join? I'm going to lead this 8-week discipleship group. Do you want to come? I just want to make sure that you're going to be there every time if you want to come on this thing. No, they don't know what they're really signing up for, right? But it's a high-level commitment for those who could be future leaders, right? Those are the people that need to grow in commitment. Now, the neighbor may be ready to commit as well, and so the first night of the group, I'm definitely going to say, hey, we're going to be journeying for 8 weeks. I would encourage all of us to not miss a single week, to make this a priority, because what we put into this, we will get out as far as growth, transformation, and the ability to impact others, right? So I'm still going to cast a high level commitment, but I'm going to have a lower bar of participation for those who aren't there yet. But for leaders, I want to say, hey, take this group journey with us, and I would love to pour into you, or let's learn together of how we can multiply groups in this church and in this city that Jesus uses to change lives. Does that make sense? Clear? Any questions on this, on how Jesus recruited for his team and what that looks like in your context? Okay. So a disciple-making team, people who lead discipleship groups that multiply, right? So like we said before, if you think about this as a group, I guess this laser thing's maybe not working, but these blue circles, use your imagination, those are groups, right? So maybe it starts with you starting a small group, but then that small group multiplies into other groups. Leaders are sent to start other groups or ministries, and then those are sent. So all of those could ultimately become a disciple-making team for the church, but it might start with you, right, at that first small group. So what does that look like? How to start a new group? Let's get really practical, okay? And I don't want to create too many rules. I think that whatever you do, God will bless, right? But here are some things that we equip my team, that in the church that we planted and that's now planting other churches. I tried to put on one slide in case you want to take a picture or something like that. That's totally fine. I know it's kind of a lot of words for one page, but I know sometimes people like to take a picture so they don't have to write it all down. So what does this look like on the very practical level, right? Here's a simple way to do it. Not the only way. I'm not being dogmatic about this, but here's a simple on-ramp. I found whatever is very simple for people to do, more people will do. Does that make sense? And so we want to make things simple so that lots of people can lead groups. So find one or two co-leaders, right? Ideally two. Then you have two other co-leaders. Some would even say you should have a leader for upreach, helping everyone connect with God, for inreach, helping everyone connect with each other, and for outreach, helping the group serve or bless or connect with people in the community, right? I mean, that would be the ideal, is if you have three leaders, a leader for upreach, inreach, and outreach. But even if you just have to start with two, don't lead a group just by yourself. Why? Support, burnout. If you're gone, exactly. And then also challenge each other, share ideas, right? We're so much more prone to discouragement if we are by ourselves, right? But if you have a co-leader, then there's at least going to be two people there at your group, even if you have not done any personal invitations. Now, maybe you have and nobody turns up. That happens sometimes too. Then with your co-leader, you can say, hey, who did we invite? Well, let's pray for them right now. Or who else do we need to invite? All right, let's pray about this because God wants to use this to change people's lives, right? Does that make sense? So at least two leaders, if not three, is ideal. Connect with a mentor on the church board. Maybe you have a leader that oversees small groups in your church. Maybe you don't. Maybe there's an elder. Maybe there's someone, a ministry leader, but some kind of a mentor where you can be journeying together with the church. Question, do you need permission in order to start a small group? Do you need permission from the church board in order to start a small group that disciples people?
No. From the pastor.
From God. This question at our church and they said yes. Holy Spirit.
It's a tricky question. That's why I asked it. All right, you want to know? You want to know what? I can tell you what I think. That's a pretty significant statement you just said. Right. Here's my question. Has Jesus given permission for you to start a group that disciples people? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, so evidently the top boss already gave permission, even if your supervisor hasn't caught on to it yet. Okay? But here's what I want to clarify for you, okay? What is the role of the church board? Okay? What is the role of these things? So I understand why some church boards get nervous about people starting small groups, because they could start a small group that's teaching people crazy stuff about God that's not biblical, right? They could start a small group that's hijacking things or making the church less healthy rather than more healthy. Because usually people who have weird agendas try to disciple other people into their weird agendas, right? Instead of into Jesus and a devoted life with him, right? So what does that mean? Okay, so the role of the church board is to define partnership, not permission. Okay? Partnership, not permission. Let me give you an example, right? Can the church board, do they have the authority to tell you what you can and can't do in your home? No. Can the church board vote whether or not you can have somebody over for dinner? Can the church board vote whether you can invite people to your house and open the Bible together? No. I mean, they can vote all they want, but it means nothing, right? But here's what the church board does have the prerogative for, okay? The church board has prerogative for what happens in the church building. All right? What happens in the church building? That's church board needs to, because the role of the church board is to help now, I don't know that they've always recognized this, but the role of the church board should be to help every part of the church be effective in mission, right? And to help everyone work together in that. That's what the board exists. The church manual says the board exists for the evangelism and spiritual nurture of the church and community, right? That's what it's for. And so the church building, that's the prerogative of the church. So if you want to have a group in the church building, yeah, why not? Talk to somebody who is involved with that. If you want to have it in your home, then that may not be partnership. The second area of the prerogative of the church board is finances from the church. Can the church board decide how you spend your money? No, they can't, right? No, but they can decide how the church spends the money that has been given through offerings, right? So facility, finances, and then the third thing is publicity. Does the church board have some sort of authority over what is communicated through the official church communication platforms? Yes, right? From the front, if it's announced from the front. Now, I'm not saying you need to have a board vote for every announcement that's announced from the front, but I'm saying that that's their prerogative, right? They can give a lot more permission and empowerment to leaders to start new things, right? But I'm saying that that's ultimately their prerogative, and they would have to be the ones to deal with it if something went haywire, right? So facilities, finances, communication, right? That is the prerogative of the church board. So if you're starting a small group in your home that you will personally invite people to, and that you will invite people to contribute food each week, just a dish or something on their own, or bring snacks or whatever, and you're not asking for anything from the church, does the board have the authority to tell you can't do that? No, they don't, right? That being said, it is wise to come alongside to a mentor you trust who's on the board and say, hey, here's what I want to do. I'm wanting to help make disciples. I want to help move the mission forward with Jesus. I want to help contribute something to the mission of this church. Would you be my mentor in the process? And then I can share how Jesus is working the group, and then you could share that during the reports time at the church board. Just share the story about how God is working through this discipleship group. Would that be okay with you? And then you can just be praying for me, praying for the people in the group, and if there's any input that you want to give to me or encouragement, I would welcome that. Would you be willing to mentor me? You see how that would help us move forward together? That's a great way that we can all be accountable, but also empowered. Does that make sense? Okay, so connect with a mentor on the church board. Choose a day, time, place for the group. That's basic logistics, right? Meet weekly for around 8 weeks. Why do I say 8 weeks? Now, this is not a rule. There's other ways of doing this, but for the groups that we've mobilized in my context, it's often about 8 weeks. Why do we say 8 weeks? Make sure you're all on the same page. If it becomes too long. Need to build a community. It's really hard to get someone to commit to something for the rest of their life. Right? Hey, I'm starting a Bible study group. We're going to start meeting on Monday nights for the next 25 years. Would you like to join? No, I'm busy. Sorry. I'm fully booked on Monday nights for the next 25 years, right? But we don't say for the next 25 years, but if we don't have an end point, then sometimes it makes the commitment feel way heavier than it needs to be, right? If I start going, will I ever be able to do anything else in my life again without letting this person down? It's easier just not to do it at all, right? And so it's easier. So 8 weeks is something, 6 to 8 weeks, could be 6 to 10, whatever. And I mean, I'm not making this a rule, but I'm saying that that's a simple period of time that most people could commit to if they want to. Right? Even if you're super busy, you could give one night a week for 8 weeks, right? If you're really going to lean into something that's going to make a difference for you, for your family, and for the people you care about, and for the purpose that you have, right? Does that make sense? So meet weekly for around 8 weeks, give or take. Personally invite friends from the community and from church. Why is it helpful to have people who are from the community in your group as well, not just Adventists? Exactly. Here's what I found. I hope you know, I wish that you knew me better to know that when I say things, I really mean them in love, and I'm totally bought in. But Adventists behave better when new people are around. Right? So that's why I want to do everything. I want to pray. I want to be leaning into the lives of others. I want to be living missionally. I want to be looking for people that can be part of this group who aren't Adventists yet, and hopefully who aren't even Christian yet. That's the ideal, right? If they're willing to take this journey with the group, because the entire dynamic of the group changes because they are not on the same page. And we can no longer just preach to the choir and use insider language. We can no longer assume that everybody knows every story of the Bible. We can no longer assume that people even know what the big numbers and the little numbers are in the Bible or what the Bible even is. I remember we've had multiple people at Journey and Bible study groups in the church that we planted, LifeBridge Church, reaching unchurched young professionals and families in Tacoma. We've had multiple people join a small group and then at the end of the group say, that was the first time I've ever opened a Bible before in my life. Well, how old are you? I'm 28. You know, and this is, do you think that there's any Aussies out here in your area that have never opened a Bible before? Absolutely. What if we had groups that were catered for them to take a discipleship journey instead of just for Bible experts looking for something more interesting to look at, right? So it's powerful. And so here's what I will do. Here's one pro tip, okay? If I have the sad reality, now this is not the case for everyone, but at least in my context, the sad reality is that many Adventists have never gotten used to spending time in environments with people who aren't Adventist. That's a sad reality, at least in my context. Maybe not here. So that means that when I'm leading a small group, and I've invited a couple of friends from the community, or other people have invited friends from the community, people who are open to taking the journey, and they're not from the same background or from the same page, that means that I usually need to tell the Adventists beforehand, not at the group, but before we join, I usually need to tell them in advance, hey, so we're so excited that you're going to be taking this journey with us, this discipleship journey. We're going to grow spiritually. We're excited. Not everyone from the group is coming from the same background. Some of them are going to be learning about Jesus for the first time, and so we just want to pour into them and let them just experience everything there is in Jesus. What did I just do there? I just said this group is not the place for you to unload your baggage, right? This group is not the place for you to make assumptions that everyone is coming from the same place. And it's amazing how the Spirit works when you have an environment where people are actually being discipled. Because not only are you discipling that person, the whole group is learning how to disciple someone. That's why it's so powerful. If God ever gives you the opportunity to study the Bible with someone, please don't do it by yourself. Bring other people along in the journey, because you can equip them to be disciple makers in the process, right? Maybe some of you are really gifted. Maybe some of you are already like disciple makers and Bible study givers and everything like that. Bring other people with you so that you can equip other people in what that looks like. And pray daily for group participants and communicate with them at least weekly. I always start a group message or a WhatsApp or whatever platform you want to use, text, group message so that we can be giving a reminder each week when the group's going to happen or send out any communication that needs to take place. It's a basic step, but it's critical for people to continue to stay engaged with the group. Pray daily for the group participants, right? I want Jesus to work in their lives, so I want to be praying for them on a daily basis. Develop relationships with group participants and help them take next steps with Jesus, right? We want to be hanging out. We might even go hang out with, I might hang out with someone from the group outside the group just to get to know them a little bit more deeply. Toward the end of your group, plan what's next, right? After 8 weeks, what do? Well, we may say, hey, we're really growing here. We're really enjoying this. We would like to continue for another 8 weeks, right? You can always re-up the group if you want to keep going, but it makes the commitment level still bite-sized instead of saying, hey, let's continue for the rest of our lives. Ready? And then, or hey, is it time for us to multiply groups? Maybe some of us need to continue this group. Who's ready to be sent to start a new group? All right, and maybe some will stay here, maybe some will go here, maybe some, and then we'll invite new people into that as well. So we'll multiply groups. Okay, some of you, for some, it may be, hey, we have an evangelistic seminar, we have some other church opportunity that we want to invite them to, kind of to culminate this 8-week journey. Or it could be that, hey, we grew, praise the Lord, let's celebrate that. Now we're going to focus on other things for this next season. And the group kind of disbands. All of them are a win, right? The point is not to start a program or some kind of group that somehow perpetuates itself forever. The point is to develop people who become multipliers. Does that make sense? So 5 goals for every group, and I'm looking at the time, we're doing good. 5 goals for every group: grow spiritually, grow relationally, grow missionally, help someone take a step closer to committing to Jesus through baptism, and develop a new leader. That's the 5 goals for every group. So spiritually, right, that's upreach, help every person connect with God. Now, you can have any kinds of groups, right? We might have a basketball group that is there to engage people who don't even know Jesus yet, right? To just start making friends. We might have a basketball group, and we play basketball together, but right before we play basketball or right after we play basketball, we just gather everyone together, and maybe right beforehand, we just gather everyone together and say, hey, thanks for coming to play basketball. Hey, we just want to be praying for people who need prayer. Anybody know someone who needs prayer? We just want to have a quick prayer for them right now. Even an atheist will usually not be offended that somebody's trying to pray for someone who needs prayer, right? It's like, oh, these people care. But it opens a door without being pushy. It opens a door for if they know someone or if they need prayer, they can talk to you about it. It opens the door for spiritual conversation. All right, let's play some basketball. Let's go, right? And so you can have any kind of group, but or it might be a Bible study group that your whole goal is to disciple them, to make commitments to Jesus, to understand the character of God, the beautiful message that we have, and to make commitments to Jesus, be baptized, and become disciples of Him and disciple makers, right? Grow relationally. We want to help everyone in the group become best friends, become really close. How can we do that, right? How can we build a connection? If I had time, I would do more things with this group to help model what to do that, how to do that, right? But a simple way, ready? I'm going to share it in another slide, but a simple way is at the beginning of the group. If it's a Bible study group, for example, at the beginning of the group, we have the introductions. If we ever have a new person, we do introductions again with everyone. Not every, if someone comes late, but if we have a new person on the next week, then we're going to introduce everyone again, not just the new person, because how helpful is that for them, right? Hey, this is so-and-so. All right, now we all know who they are, but they have no clue who we are. All right, let's go. So we're going to have introductions, but then we're going to have some kind of like connection time, like eating together, eating snacks or whatever, talking about life, informal conversations. And I'm going to be making sure as the leader of the group that everyone's getting connected with, especially the person who's the least comfortable in the environment, the newest or the most socially vulnerable person in the group. I'm going to make sure that they're getting connected with. And if it needs to be me, I'll go connect with them, and then I will introduce them to somebody else and help them connect with somebody else, right? And we can do this every time we gather as a church, too. Look for the person who's new. Look for the person who's not connected. Go find a way to connect with them, and then connect them with others. I'm going to talk more about that tonight when we talk about how to destroy loneliness. So help everyone grow relationally. And then one thing I like to do when I lead Bible study groups is have a sharing time for highlights and lowlights. Let's go around the circle and just share. We don't have time for it right now, but I'll say, hey, let's go around the circle and just share a highlight and lowlight from this last week. And then I'll go first to model how long I want them to answer for, right? So if I answer like a 10-minute answer, then everyone's like, whoa, we're going to have to share a life story right now, okay? No, I'll share for like 1 minute, 30 seconds, a highlight and a lowlight from this last week. Highlight, something that I'm excited about. Lowlight, why do we share lowlights? What? Opportunities for prayer.
Also, it's not, you can show that you're not always, everybody has ups and downs.
Okay, you can show that you're not just a perfect or everything's always great. It's a chance to be vulnerable. Yeah. For vulnerability, right? Our strengths are how we impress people. Our weaknesses are how we connect with people, right? And so we can be vulnerable and say, what's a highlight and a low light. And so and so then everybody can go around, and it creates an environment where when people can be vulnerable with each other, that's where we can really begin to grow, right? Okay, grow spiritually, relationally, missionally. What does that mean? That means that maybe we're inviting friends from the community to be part of this group journey. And usually the invitation phase happens at the before the group starts or the very first week, and then we really kind of go deeper into those people for the next 8 weeks, and then we'll have another cycle, right? Grow missionally, or it could be, hey, as a group, we want to do something to serve the community together. Let's think of some ideas, and let's come back together one of these times, and let's set up a date where we can do something to serve as a group. Maybe we can invite other people to serve with us as well, but we'll organize it here with this group, right? That's missional, so it's not just about us and our group. It's about how our group can impact those beyond us, right? And then help someone take a step closer to committing to Jesus through baptism. That doesn't mean that if in the basketball group, I'm coming up to the guy from the community saying, hey, nice shot you had there. Do you want to get baptized?
Oh, why not?
Why not? Why not? Right, hallelujah, right? That's not saying that. That means that I'm helping somebody grow toward that. That means that the group isn't just Adventists, right? It means that we've gone all out to help at least one person from the community be part of that group, and we're helping them grow in whatever that looks like. So if they're playing basketball, it might just be growing in, hey, we have that prayer time, but then that leads to a conversation about, hey, actually, I'm going through some struggles in my marriage right now. Could you keep that in prayer, whatever that does? I'll check all my boxes. Hey, for sure. And would you ever like to, do you want to get together and just talk a little bit more about that, how I can come alongside and support, right? Is that helping somebody take steps forward with Jesus? Yes. Absolutely. But then, of course, if it's a Bible study group, that's a more focused way of doing that. Develop a new leader. Why are we developing new leaders? Because we want to multiply groups, and we shared that at the very beginning, right? That's the whole point. And so that means that we're giving opportunities for people to lead through the process. My favorite, this is once again, I'm not dogmatic about how, what you need to use or anything like that. I think the Holy Spirit is capable of showing you. But a great tool that we like to use is apictureofgod.com. Apictureofgod.com. And here's the sample format. I put it all on one slide in case you want to take a picture. But here's what it looks like. I'm just kind of wrapping up here. I want to share this how-to, and then I want to share a story, and we'll be pretty close to done. All right? Sound good? But how-to, and I already shared some of this. But we'll have a food and connection time in the beginning, chance to do life together. We'll have introductions around the circle. We did that, share highlights and lowlights. We talked about that. And then I'll give any announcements, if there's any announcements for the group. Hey, let's all, we want to make sure we get everyone here in the group chat for the group that we have so that you can stay posted. Or if we want to plan a service activity, or if there's some other event, hey, we're going to be serving the community with the food pantry. There is a group serving people in a food pantry coming up in a couple of weeks, and anyone from this group who wants to be part of that, you're welcome to. I'd be happy to give you some of the information of how you could do that if you want to, right? So I can connect them with other church events if it makes sense for them and their journey, if it's the right thing at the right time for them. And then 5, prayer time. How do you have prayer time for people who don't believe in God? What? Short and sweet. Sometimes I'll have people break up in groups of 2 or 3 and pray together, and I'll just say, hey, yeah, and if if you don't want to pray out loud right now, you can just give God a high five. He likes those too. I just gave him the easy out, right? They can just be like, moving on. And so I found that that's a really low pressure thing that most people don't get offended by that. If other people want to pray, that's fine. They just don't want to be forced to pray. And now they got an easy out where they don't have to be like, I don't feel comfortable. No, they can just be like, yeah, cool. All right, moving on. Bible study, lesson discussion. So what we do is I've found that most people that I'm working with know how to read. Have you found that? Most people know how to read. And so they don't need to come to a group to read something that is already written. They know how to do that already. So what we do is say, hey, beginning the group, we get it all set up and say, hey, we're going to be going through a picture of God. We're going to be seeing who God is in a deep and powerful way. There's a lot of myths out there about what God is like. We're going to see what he says about himself and his dreams for our life and how we could step into a life of hope and wholeness. And so there's 2 lessons. We're going to read 2 lessons a week. We'll read those on our own because all of us know how to read. There's also an audio option where you can listen to it if you like to listen to it while you drive or while you do whatever you do. And so then you can read or listen to it on your own. Then you can do the reflection questions at the bottom there. You see the reflect little thing. You can do the reflection questions, and then we'll come back together and we'll discuss what we're learning. And so, like I said, the more you put into this, the more we'll get out of it. And so next week, we'll come back and we'll discuss lesson 1 and lesson 2. If there's ever a bonus lesson at the bottom there, you can read that one too and just continue, and pair it with the other one. Okay, cool. So that's what we're going to do. Any questions? And make sure everyone understands how to access at pictureofgod.com. Okay, got it. So then when we come to the next week, we share someone will share a 1 to 3 minute summary of the lesson. People already read it, but we're just helping people remember and get on the same page, right? Then we'll pull out our Bibles because we want to make sure that God's word is heard directly, right? We'll pull out our Bibles, pick one Bible passage from the study that relates to the topic. So it could be from the lesson, or it could be something that is connected, and then we'll open the Bible together. We'll read that one passage, and then now keep in mind the people that we're reaching are people who are often unchurched people. So if this seems too basic for you, that's why. It's because it's helping people who are being discipled for the first time. Read one passage from the Bible, then the facilitator asks one discussion question about the Bible verse. An open-ended question often starts with a why or how, right? Why do you think this? Or how do you do this, right? Because of that. What do you notice? And so they ask a question about the Bible verse, and then listen to several people share, right? Don't just move on after one person shared. Awesome, thank you for sharing that. Who else would like to share? Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, so you hear multiple people share, and then you can ask any additional questions if you want. You can pull them from the reflection questions if you want to. And then at the very end of the discussion, have people go around and share popcorn or go around and share what was a personal takeaway that you're taking away from this. What is something that God is calling you to apply to your life based on what we've learned this week, right? And then we close out in prayer. Sound good? Is that simple enough? But very powerful at the same time, right? Is this complicated? Yes or no? How many of you feel like God could give you the courage to lead a group like this? Praise the Lord. Awesome, right? We want to make it simple and easy to do. I want to close out with a story. And once you end up starting these groups, you can have tons of groups going with your church. And what we would do is do waves of groups where we have lots of groups going on. And so they can be at different days and times during the week. They can be different topics, and we have leaders and ways that people get involved, and we can even create a brochure, and we could mail it out to all of our church interest lists or invite all our friends or give it out. We can have group leaders come up front during the worship gathering and promo their groups, go down the line, give a 30-second promo for all their groups. We can encourage everyone to be involved in a group and to invite other friends from the community to journey in one or more groups, right? And so you see how it can snowball into something very beautiful and powerful where groups can then grow and develop leaders who are ready to say, hey, let's go plant a church together, right? Let's go start something new and develop more groups that are reaching a different kind of people with this church plant, right? So you see kind of what it can lead to, but I want to close with this story. I'm going to share this. unapologetically share this story with you in like 2 nights, okay, or Friday night. I'm going to share it. So you're going to hear it twice, and I'm not sorry. All right. So because this will help tie everything together that we've learned, all right? In closing, Daniel was homeless for over 10 years. He was homeless. He was addicted to heroin, drug addict. His life was a total mess. But God was working in his life. God was drawing him to him. And so he began taking steps forward to welcome accountability and transparency, to stop lying, to go into rehab, to get clean from drugs. He got a job. He got an apartment. His life was coming together. And so as his life was coming together, Daniel goes to the dentist, right? Goes to the dentist. And there at the dentist, Daniel meets, now the dentist happened to be a disciple maker as part of our church plant core team, right? And the dentist was very missional. He's looking for opportunities to share his faith there in the workplace. And so he has this conversation with Daniel, and they're talking about life, and they're having kind of the conversation turns more spiritually oriented as he's hearing more about Daniel's journey, and Daniel ends up saying something to Jed, the dentist. He says, you know, when I was homeless, I read in the Bible one time that we should be going to church on Saturday, but it's so hard to find a church that actually does that. This guy's not churched. He's not like doing anything with that. And so he's like, I read this in the Bible. And Jed, the dentist, says, wow, that's amazing. Actually, I'm part of a new church plant team that's starting a new church that does just that worships on Saturdays. Would you like to come? And he's like, sure. And so Daniel shows up, and he's immediately noticed and welcomed and embraced, because there's not so many people, so many Adventists around that we can't notice the new people, right? That's the beauty of church planting, right? And so he's immediately noticed and embraced and befriended. We're going on a retreat the next weekend to plan our grand opening for our church plant. So say, hey, Daniel, you want to come along? He's like, sure, why not? I got nothing else to do. And so he comes along, and there at the retreat, as part of the development process, we review our fundamental beliefs, we review some of our discipleship commitments of what does it mean, we review the vision of what it means to be part of this church, and we invite everyone to make commitments to that. And Daniel's like, I'm all in, sign me up. I want to be baptized. And we're like, awesome, let's do it. Now, if I had done what I was trained to do in my theological education, I would have said, wonderful, Daniel. I, as the pastor, will now do Bible studies with you for the next however long, and then I will baptize you. But how's that going to build a disciple-making team?
You've just knocked the legs out of everything you've been doing, and all the training you've been doing, and all the enabling that you've been getting everyone to do, because now you're the authority, and it relies on just you.
Exactly. So, how's that going to multiply leaders, right? It's not. So this is what we said. We said, Daniel, this is exciting. You're making a decision for Jesus. Praise the Lord. Awesome. Let's plan to have your baptism 3 months from now. Let's set a date. And then as part of your baptism preparation process, we're going to start a Bible study group. Let's make it a men's group. You're a single guy. Let's make it a men's group. We'll bring together other men and think and just grow together in how we can live for Jesus as men of God. And we'll be studying this, A Picture of God, Bible study guides. And so as part of your preparation, we're going to form this men's group and take this journey together, and then we're going to celebrate your baptism. How does that sound? He said, awesome, that sounds great. And so then I invited some guys from my church. We invited anyone else we could find who was ready to take a journey. And so now we've got 8 or 9 guys taking a Bible study group journey through A Picture of God. That's all, and so many of them were from our church, but now they're getting experience leading someone to baptism, right? They're discipling someone to baptism, many of them for the first time in this group, and they're also growing and bonding together and becoming leaders. Now, I let out with the first 2 weeks so I could help demonstrate what it looks like, and then I said, and then we're going to take turns leading out, being the facilitator. So we'll take turns, and so you already saw the template of how it works, and so who's going to do it for next week? All right, after that, okay, awesome. So everyone got a chance to share and lead out. The content is already set, so I'm not worried about them saying weird stuff, but they're facilitating discussions about what's already there, right? And so then, and I said, and also we're going to do a service activity together sometime during this 8 weeks. So why don't we come up with ideas, and then we'll bring them back together to brainstorm and decide what idea we want to do. And so we came back the next week. Okay, what did you guys think about? What do you want to do to serve together? And Daniel says, well, when I was homeless one time, somebody brought me socks and a sack lunch, and that was pretty cool. Maybe we could do something like that. And everyone in the group is like, let's do that. That sounds awesome. And so then we said, now, Daniel, would you be willing to help coordinate that? Because you already know all the need. You're super dialed into the situation. And Daniel's like, I'd love to. Now, notice, Daniel is now, and then we said, wait a second, let's just invite the whole church if they want to contribute to this. We could go even bigger if they want to, or we could just do it with our group, but let's invite the whole church. So now you have somebody who's been part of our church for about 3 weeks, who's leading an outreach initiative for our entire church, right? But he can't fail because we as a small group are going to make sure it's a success. So if Daniel flakes out or falls through, everything's still going to happen because we're going to step up and make it happen. But he's the one becoming the hero for Jesus. Does that make sense? You see how that works? And so now Daniel's so pumped up, and he shares with the church, hey, Daniel, we want you to give an announcement about how everyone can be part of this thing. And so he gets up front of church and shares how the whole church can be involved. Everyone gets excited about, we have somebody who used to be homeless who's helping us learn how to serve those people where he came from. This is great. And so people were excited about giving. You can see how the whole church is being invigorated missionally because of one guy who's being discipled in a small group. Does that make sense? So what ended up happening? After those 10 or so weeks that we took studying a picture of God together, Daniel grew spiritually. All of us grew in making disciples. And then as part of the baptism, we said, hey, Daniel, we are here to celebrate your baptism. And we said, all of you in the group have been part of discipling Daniel to make this decision for Jesus. So we love to pack out the baptistry and have everybody in there who would like to be in there to help baptize Daniel. Is that cool? And so that's the men's group. They're in the baptistry. A couple of them weren't able to be there that day. So they're all there baptizing Daniel. Now, where am I in the picture? Can you find me in the picture? I'm not taking the photo. I'm actually to the left there. I'm in the left in the back. Now, I was part of the discipleship group, so I'm there in the photo. But was I the primary person who discipled Daniel? No, the dentist was the first one who initiated the journey, and then Michael, the dentist, Jed on the left, he's the guy who started the journey, and then Michael on the right was someone who really came close to Daniel and really got close to him during that group journey and poured into him spiritually and met up with him outside the group and really built a close friendship with him, right? So Jed and Michael are the ones who are the primary ones discipling him while the whole group is supporting that process. And so Jed and Michael now are the ones who are baptizing, they're leading out in the baptism, and we're all there as part of that, celebrating it. So then what ends up happening, all right? What ends up happening? We had, praise the Lord, someone made a commitment to Jesus Christ and became a disciple. Daniel is still involved in LifeBridge Church today and tells everyone he possibly can about Jesus and LifeBridge Church. He loves it. And he's involved in serving and all kinds of stuff. Number 2, we had 8 guys get experience with leading someone to baptism, right? With leading, and beyond that, because it doesn't just end with baptism, right? We keep discipling them, like I said with Daniel. Number 3, we had a new person get experience, plus a whole group get experience in leading outreach for the church, right? Leading service and outreach for the church. Number 4, at the end of that group journey, I said, hey, we're going to start our next groups wave in about a month. We're looking for different people who are willing to lead groups. Who of you are willing to lead a group? And 4 of those guys said, I'd be willing to lead a group. Why? Because they'd already gotten practice. They'd already done it, right? I'm not just getting up front and trying to take somebody from, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, right? Like they've already done it. It's not weird. It's not new to them. That's their next step. And so where we had one group before, now we had 4 groups that were all discipling different people the next time after that. And finally, as we multiply groups and build disciple-making teams, people begin emerging as leaders of leaders, right? Those who are mentoring group leaders. Jed was one of those. Michael was one of those. And you want to know what Jed and Michael, the guy on the left and the right of Daniel, are doing today? Jed is leading, he's the dentist. He's leading a new church plant that's planting a church along with the wellness center. And Michael is a physical therapist, and he's leading a new church plant, a micro-church network. So LifeBridge Church that we planted 3 years ago is now sending 2 new church plants, and both of those guys are leading it. Leading 2 different ones, right? So this is what we're talking about what does it look like to build a disciple-making team, and it may start small. It may start simple. It may start with one person who's being discipled into a relationship with Jesus in a group that's coming alongside that, but it can end up with an explosion of Spirit-led missional multiplication that helps change lives and more people be ready for Jesus' soon return. Thank you so much for being part of this. Let me close with prayer. Jesus, you're awesome. Amen. God bless you guys. Thank you for coming. This one? Oh, this one? Oh, it's just a picture of God.